Well,
oh no, you're not on. I cut that mic off because you've been gone.
Late Jamaican.
Asmando.
The late Jamaican.
I'm not always late. I haven't been late in a long time.
Why you say that?
Because I have been making like 5 weeks.
Told you, weeks like that. See, people don't ever listen to me until they be like, "Oh shit." I'm like, yeah.
We kind of knew you were going to say that.
Yes,
Kind of beat you to the punch.
I know people.
Shut up.
I pay attention to people enough to know y'all mannerisms. Like I know you. That's why it's easy for me to imitate y'all. Because I study y'all. It's funny.
Well, I did have something I wanted to talk about.
Oh, we off that church burner thing?
Oh, wow.
Well, this is what I want to say. Because I did want to piggyback on that. I saw that some people were saying some shit like, you had certain Christians, right? And nothing against Christians. Because, I ain't got nothing against them. It is like, look at God. That cross didn't burn down and this and that. They're like, it's a gold cross. The fire wasn't that hot, so it wasn't.
He said the fire wasn't.
So it's like, guys, like it's not really always God. Sometimes it's just science, man.
Listen, y'all. Listen.
Oh shit.
Listen, y'all.
Lay it on.
Oh shit.
Lay it on the champ.
Please stop doing that.
Please lay it on the champ.
All my religious folks, right? Just because you cannot explain something
does not mean it's God, dog.
I mean, it could be God on a molecular level. If you want to take it all the way back to the beginning, all of these things had to happen. It was a huge coincidence that all of these things happened to get us to this place. So divine intervention there, sure. But y'all, he gave us a brain. He or she gave us a brain. Okay.
Talk that shit.
We got all kinds of instruments
to measure and
to
do
figure
shit.
out how these things work. Stop doing that shit, dog.
Stop one more time.
Just stop, dog. Like that shit irritates the fuck. Like when I hear people do that, it's like, are we living in cave times?
Yeah. Listen, I will say I'm annoyed by it too, but I understand the basis of religion is to explain. They use God as a way to explain things that can't be explained.
Absolutely.
And I understand that, but there are moments in a situation like that where science explains that. And it gets to a point where it's like, bruh, you have to, sometimes like, he gave us enough sense to figure out science. Can we not just use what he gave our God-given brain? Like, he gave this to us.
Whoa.
So certain things like that, it's like, bruh, I understand. And it's cool to say, like, all right, cool, look at what God, I'm not mad at that. But then you're always going to have that one person that's going to be like, we can prove this by science.
Well,
like, this was proven by science. This is why it didn't burn down.
For one thing, it's made of stone. That should be proven already. You're talking about Notre Dame, right?
No, I'm talking about the gold cross that was in there.
Oh, yeah.
And they were talking about how it didn't burn down.
Yeah, because the whole cathedral is made out of stone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like fire doesn't really burn through stone.
That and the gold,
pretty much
it didn't get hot enough to melt the gold.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much that explains it.
Yeah, but somebody's gonna take an opportunity to say, "Oh, look, God did this." And again, I'm not mad at Christians for doing that. That's what's up. But it's gonna be a time where don't use that as a way to get people to, because I think some people use that as a way to get people to like, hey, come on to us. Yeah, I think they do it underhandedly sometimes.
I think it goes deeper than just like things that happen in nature, right? So I know I saw this picture where this lady took a picture of where fresh water and salt water mixes at the Gulf Coast. Does it mix at the Gulf Coast? And she was like, look at God. And I was like, bruh, that's not God. It's salt water and seawater. They don't mix because they weigh differently, but it's fine.
Look at science.
I feel like it translates to more things than that. So like when bad things happen in people's lives, or it's God punishing me for my sins, or what? No, it's not, bruh. No, it's it's your own consequences. You robbed somebody, you went to jail. That's not God punishing you for your sin. That's the consequences of what the fuck you did. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just like shit like that. Like that's not God. That's you. Stop putting that.
Sometimes, like my issue with that is like you see them do crime, repent, go to church, and get right back out and do the same crime. Like they can keep going back and forth and getting away with it. You know what I'm saying? Like
I've seen a lot of that.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, if you say you're a church person, you commit a crime, you go to church, you repent, say you're not going to do it again. Why are you going to go ahead and do it again after that? And then go to church thinking like it's okay. After
I used to get out of jail free.
Yeah, like just erase all my sins. Nothing happened like that. Whatever you did in the past did not happen at all. You know what I'm saying?
I look at it like this.
Shit.
I think religion.
Look, we ain't got Joe right now, so you sound like you being the level one today.
Religion and science are like oil and water. I think the more religious you are, you have to kind of suspend logic, because you can't use science to explain things if you want God to be the reason why.
Because that's what they want.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Differ, but
And
like
those are wants.
Well,
whether than it being what it is. And I feel like they gotta stop doing that.
And I only say that because I think, like, if you look at a lot of scientists, a lot of them aren't religious because they feel like science explains a lot of things that happen.
Yes.
And you really don't see any religious people who are scientists because they feel like God is the reason why things happen. And that's why I feel like religion and science are kind of oil and water. Not saying that they can't overlap at some point, but I just feel like a lot of times, and this is just my experience, the more religious somebody is, the less they really go into scientific details of why things happen.
Yeah, but I would say the same things for scientists. The more scientific they are, the less faith they have in certain things.
But that's what,
I know it's what you just said, but I was gonna say, like, no, seriously.
Y'all listen to Osmondo.
Seriously, like, it's sorry, like, so where do we? So at that being said, where do we come on the basis, like, do you have to have faith, or do you believe more so in science? You know what I'm saying?
That's up to the individual.
So,
exactly. It's not something you have to do one or the other.
So here, I do agree to that. What you observe is often the case, but I think that has a lot more to do with when it comes to believers. I won't even say religious people, but let's just say believers.
Yeah.
If you're not secure in what you believe, right? You often feel attacked when someone comes with something that's maybe contradictory from the onset, So for me personally, I'll say, like, I'm a believer because I'm still reading the Bible, so I don't know that I necessarily stand for everything that's there because I haven't read the whole thing yet, right? But I am a believer, and I have met people that were agnostic or atheistic, and that has been their experience. But I've had multiple experiences in my personal life where I felt that it could have been nothing but divine intervention, right? Too. So when I come across someone that feels differently or whatever the case may or may not be, I don't feel attacked. I don't feel like I need to argue their point or argue them down to be secure in what I've already experienced. So what my thinking, what I rationalize is when people take offense to, when believers take offense to what they see in science, it's because they're not secure enough in what they believe. I mean, because that's what it is. It's a belief. It can't be proven.
Right.
So
yeah, because if you could prove beliefs, then
it wouldn't be a belief, right? So that's the one thing. The other part is, I think far too often, and it's happened from when the church was saying the earth was flat and scientists were saying it was round and all kinds of other stuff, right? It's always like science and religion always clash. And I think if people would just stop and at least attempt to see how they coincide, it would make things a lot easier. So like the creation story, for example, that's like the biggest thing, right? Creation in the Bible versus what you read about evolution and Darwinism and all that stuff, right? And it's like, if you believe in that, then you can't be Christian. I never had an issue with that. Like I've always read Genesis. When you're a kid, that's pretty much the only book that you read. Always read Genesis, know the creation story, frontwards, backwards. That's it, right? So, and when I got to biology class and we were learning about these things, it was never a case of, oh, well, these two don't match. I just always figured, well, shoot. I would imagine that if God is all these omnis, omnipresent, omniscient, all of these things, then time is of no consequence to this being. So what we consider 7 days may be millions of years for this person,
same exact
right? So like that's how when I read things in the Bible, I'm like, okay, how does this translate to what makes sense scientifically? Like when they say,
that's exactly how.
Like when they say, oh, well, we heard God's voice, the clouds on the mountain. Okay, that was probably thunder, but at that time they didn't know what the fuck thunder was.
Millions of years. Oh shit!
That was me. My bad.
So I don't know. That's how I rationalize it. I'm not saying it's right. I haven't been to anybody's theologian school or anything like that. That's just my own little brain, and that's how. So it's never been an issue for me to mix the two. Yeah. I've always looked for them to prove one another.
Yeah, because like religion literally explains it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then science
like technically.
the technical
Yeah.
part about it, and like you know, there's like science doesn't even guarantee anything.
Oh
at
no,
all.
things are always changing.
Everything in
So
science,
it's a theory.
and that's how scientists believe in things. They're like, okay, it's what it is, what we believe it is, until it's proven wrong.
Exactly.
Essentially. So it's like the religious people get so much into the argument part where they're like, can't be proven wrong. Where science, they'll embrace being proven wrong. You know what I'm saying? They'll embrace it, but give me the facts first.
Man, that sounds a lot like me.
Yeah. So I want the facts
always been
first.
that way.
Tell me why I am wrong. Please explain. But nobody wants to explain. Like, especially certain, like, heavy religious people do not want to explain.
Yo, that is
You can't even ask
literally-
questions. If you ask questions, they consider you to be blasphemous.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to look at it. In my opinion, I believe religion was around longer than science because there was really no
definitely.
the things that couldn't be explained through science, through technology later on were explained through religion.
Of course.
So in order for religion to thrive, they had to believe and they had to spread their beliefs to other people and get them to contrive with what they believe without asking questions. Like, you had to believe this. This is what it is. Don't ask questions. You
They
got to
had
follow
a
this.
thing called the Spanish Inquisition. So
I mean,
Which-
you already know.
they killed
Side
people.
note, I'm sorry. Side note, in case you guys didn't know, the Spanish Inquisitions were the first people to actually come up with like calling people a race based on their skin color because they couldn't figure out who was Christian and who wasn't just by looking at them.
Yeah.
So they was like, "Yo, you darker than this, you a heathen. We're killing you."
Pretty much.
Yeah, but like, I mean, religion in itself was just a way to. It was early laws of the land, how to control people. That's all it was.
That's why all the
shit, how do
gospel
you-
personalities of human beings.
Yeah, it's like, how do you explain? How do you stop somebody from doing something you do not want to do? You gonna just tell them? Nah, you gotta make them fear some shit. You know what I'm saying? You'd be like, no, if you do that shit, you're gonna get burnt. You'll be lit on fire just
I've
randomly.
heard this,
Like, oh shit.
I've had so many conversations with overly religious people, like even people in my family. And it's funny because they'll look at me like, well, God, da, da, da. I'm like, you ever start to think that they just didn't know what was going on? So I'm like, because I question the Bible all the time. I'm like, that just doesn't make sense.
Always.
And it was like, well, you shouldn't do that. I'm like,
You should.
a lot of that stuff probably was scientific things that they just
question
didn't
it.
know
Yeah.
how to.
And
It
you
looked like a
should.
miracle. So somebody walking on water, right? That could have just been like, oh, it was just low tide.
Yeah.
So they ain't know no better or something.
Like no, like
I'm being
like
serious.
seriously,
No, I
like but that's what I'm saying. Like you're supposed to, and you're supposed to take these things in context.
Yes.
So people always want to choose certain parts. I'm just using the Bible because that's what I'm accustomed to. People always want to choose certain parts of a religious text and take it literally.
Oh, of course.
I don't see y'all out here stoning motherfuckers no more.
Yeah.
Y'all fucking ready to shoot fucking all the damn Shari law. Anybody who follows Shari, oh, they a problem. They following the literal word too.
Exactly.
But that's the problem. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they pick and choose.
Oh, blood. Y'all still out here having sex before
A
marriage?
whole lot of sex,
Yo.
boy.
We
A
should
whole
all
lot.
We should all be
A
dead.
whole lot of fucking sex.
Well,
We out here fucking.
I have a problem with some of the hypocritical things of religious people because they say God gave us free will, but then if I question the Bible, I'm wrong. Well,
That's
if he
not
didn't,
true.
right? If he didn't,
But that's the thing. Nowhere in the Bible does it say you can't question God. That's something that
Exactly.
that's why
Yeah.
it's important to read like
Yeah.
for yourself because it's not like they mean harm, but I mean, we're all verbal people. Like prior to being able to read, that's how we pass down stories by word of mouth. So that's what happens especially in the Christian religion. That person that's standing up there in that pulpit, have they read it? Probably so. But what is the story that they're telling?
But
The
you know
one
what?
that they've heard time and time again,
Yeah.
and the one that helps whatever message they're trying to get across.
I want to piggyback on the top of that too. So when it comes to some of these pastors, right? Think about them as this.
man.
They basically like think of you like of an MC, right? The motherfuckers gotta have some bars.
Yeah.
They do.
So they basically, I mean, let's keep it funky. Most pastors that like, yo, they got bars.
That's why I will say.
So they'll take
like,
a story and like, yo, let me da da da, and they'll make that shit sound so fucking good.
I
You be like, oh, I
love-
believe that.
I love going to black churches for praise and worship because we be in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love going to white churches for actual studying and reading of
Yeah,
the word.
they.
Because like
Yeah,
it's
just straight
a
to the
real
point.
life it's a study, it's a breakdown. We talking about the meaning of the word as it was when it was written, when this book was written, the context in which this was said. It's not just one little piece where you take it and run with it, and that makes a huge difference. Like, prime example, for the longest time, whenever I would hear about the story of Sarah and Abraham, or Sarah and Abram before they had the child.
Hey, I like how you say
Like,
it the right way.
They always say how Sarah doubted God. She laughed. Oh, I'm too old, blah, blah, blah. I specifically always remembering Sarah laughed, right? Abraham laughed too. Everybody seems to forget that part. Or even the story of Job. Oh, I want the patience of Job. When people would tell that story, they would make it seem like he just suffered in silence and God.
Hell no, he was talking shit.
He was talking mad shit the entire fucking time. Like the entire time.
The whole time he's like, what the fuck, bro?
That's one of my problems with religion. I think religion has gotten watered down where it's kind of men have conformed it or twisted it to fit their own agenda.
I don't think it's got watered down. I think it has been dressed up to fit their narrative.
A lot of things. I mean, when things because when these books were written, you were looking at it in Arabic, and Hebrew, right? So these are like really old languages. So of course, when things translate, you lose certain things in translation. For example, the word love. We only have one word, love, in English, right? In Hebrew, there's 7 different words for love, and they all mean something different. But in the Bible, it's all translated to just love.
Well, that's just like when the letter J was invented.
Yeah.
And they call him Jesus. That couldn't have been his name because the letter J was invented way after.
Way after, exactly.
So it's like, that's like me calling you a whole different name and expecting you to answer to it. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, because honestly, we don't know what is his technical name.
But you're so-called praying to somebody and you're not even calling by his correct name.
Well,
but you want him to answer.
That's the thing. You, first of all...
oh, shit.
First of all, you ain't...
Laying all this camp.
As human beings, the way our mind works, in order for us to understand something, to comprehend something, we have to label it, right? We have to call it something. If it doesn't have a name, we for some reason can't grasp that shit.
That's weird.
Right? It's so weird, but it's what we do. So that's what, I feel like that somebody somewhere, Socrates talked about it, Plato's talked about it, some entity, some being, some existence that cannot be explained, that is everywhere, a part of everything, right? But when you say something like that, niggas be like, and I use niggas generally, niggas be like, okay, the fuck? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just hard to grasp. So I feel like that's why we've taken these names and applied them to them. Because, I mean, Christianity, there's another religion called Zoroastrianism that's exactly like Christianity. Like,
there's
every
also,
story, the exact same.
There's also, Greek gods?
Son, the
Egyptian gods.
Look, like, Greek mythology literally
is Hercules the son of
right.
Zeus. The son of Zeus, Hercules was born on this land with a human mother.
And you have Egyptian gods, Osiris,
yeah,
like it's all, you know what I'm saying? So I think it translates.
What I guarantee you though, every single one of them, you hear the tree of life.
Absolutely.
Every single one of them.
It translates.
There's always some type of Messiah.
It translates, and that makes sense because when these books were written, those were the influence that they had. So that's why I say it's all about context. When you're reading things, like you have to understand what time frame this was written, what these people were like, what they knew and what they didn't know. And I feel like a lot of times in most churches, they don't take that approach. So in my opinion, it's hard to get to what's truly meant or what you're truly supposed to get from the text. You know what I'm saying?
And I think the reason why, I would say Christianity as a whole kind of stuck around a lot longer is it was pretty much created around a time where we actually started recording stuff.
True.
I mean, other religions were recorded, but most of it has been destroyed through weather or time. Especially Egypt. Egypt had that great fire that pretty much destroyed their whole library. You know what I'm saying? I forgot what the fire was called. It was a fire that I think the Romans started or something like that.
I thought it was
Alexander the Great.
There we go, Alexander. I know it was something. I remember that back in. I was good in history.
Yeah,
but yeah.
That shit pretty much eliminated a whole bunch of Egyptian
fucked
history.
Up all their treasures, everything. Everything was lost and. I don't know. When it comes to religion, like me, I've talked to Josh about this plenty of times. I've told my grandmother, everybody, I believe there is a higher source. Do I believe that there is one thing to believe? No, because my biggest thing is because this is what my biggest problem is. When Christians are like, "Oh, you should believe this and that," so I'm like, so Muslims got it wrong, Buddhists got it wrong, so everybody else is wrong, but we're right. That doesn't make sense to me. That literally makes zero sense.
Well, not only
all of
that.
us are, everybody else is wrong, but we're the only ones who's right because we're Christianity's the right one.
But hold on,
that doesn't make
then the
sense.
question becomes, which sect of Christianity?
I was just about to say that. Pentecostal,
I'm about to say,
Methodist,
like if you look
Baptist,
at according
like-
to Jehovah's Witnesses, only 144,000 getting in. So I mean,
Exactly.
shit.
That's what I'm like. And I hate when they
Might as
do
well
that.
fuck up a check, like.
They all believe in the same thing, right? You know what I'm saying?
but in different ways.
But that just goes to show the different interpretations that come about for what is convenient. Like the King James Version, that's exactly what it is. King James Version. The Vatican right now has books of the Bible, mostly about women, but we're gonna leave that alone. Books of the Bible that were taken out because it didn't fit the agenda that they wanted it to fit. There are literally books that not even Catholics are allowed to read that they took out of the Bible.
Yeah.
So I mean,
That's
when you're
it.
reading that, you have to
I mean,
you have to keep that in
if you
mind.
read the Bible, doesn't the Bible say in a passage that don't trust man, right?
I don't know.
Or like, isn't there a passage that says don't trust like the word of man, like all man can be demons?
Something like that,
It
yeah.
might be, bro. You gotta
Yeah.
find out which.
Yeah, I have to
which-
find
I look at it like this. This is how I feel about
I don't quote verses
it.
because I ain't that good.
I feel like how Sean feels. I believe in a higher power. I don't necessarily believe in church. That's how I feel about it. I feel like church can be manipulated. Where if you,
Yes.
if you read the Bible and take it for what it is, that's one thing. Like how you do when you study it on your own, you read it.
Which is what everyone should do.
But that's the problem. Everybody goes by a third party source as far as a preacher, pastor, to get all their information and don't research things on their own.
And then you're taught that you can't question. Like it's bad to question. Like I remember, not at my home church, but the church that I was going to here. He was telling a story, and I got what he was. I got the point. I got the message that he was relaying. But the way that he explained concubines was absolutely incorrect. He explained them to be basically prostitutes, and they weren't women of the night. He literally said these were women of the night. And so afterwards, I was like, "Can I talk to you for a second?" He was like, "Yeah, sure." And I was like, "Well, I just want to let you know, like." That, I mean, I understand you had a point to get across, but that's not what concubines were. These women were slaves. They were forced to have sex with this king. If they didn't, they died. That's not the same as a prostitute. That's not the same as a woman of the night. And distorting that to get your point across now changes the view of any woman that's considered a concubine in the Bible. Because they're not going to read for themselves. They're not going to know the historical context. And so if you're going to do that, you need to make sure that, you're telling it correctly. And he received that, which I genuinely appreciated because I really thought he was going to dismiss me, but I still had to say something.
But that does go back to the point that I was trying to say. Like, some of these pastors have these fire-ass bars that they're trying to get off. So they know that, okay, a certain thing might mean this, or maybe the story is told this way, but like, that don't hit the way it's really supposed to. I gotta get them shouts. I gotta get them, yes, preach! I gotta get all that. You know what I'm saying? So they gotta have those bars. And I'm not trying to, belittle any pastor. My great-grandfather was a pastor. So we all grew up in the church. My grandmother, we all grew up in the church. So I'm used to it. But let's keep it funky for what it is. Sometimes, I gotta make this story slap. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm telling this story that you can read 100 times over and over and over, okay, I'm saying it, but I gotta make this shit slap. I gotta make this shit stick with you in a way where it's like, I ain't never heard of it like that.
Yeah, and I believe, in a way, it's somehow it makes them feel good. Like, pastors themselves. Like,
maybe. I won't go that far.
I'm not gonna go that far, but I'm saying there's certain pastors they're out there trying to help people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But then there's one. I think the power of it, like the control they have over certain people, over time, some of them it slowly corrupts them. You know what I'm saying? Because you got those pastors that are in those churches touching people's head and they falling back. I'm like, yo.
That's the 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yo, I'm like, yo,
commercials.
What is this? And then what's that one dude that was selling that holy water you put on your
head? Bro,
that
he go to jail?
Yeah, that shit is crazy.
Now your boy Benny Hinn, yes, I'm not gonna lie, that man was out here. The boy was out here just throwing it
like curing cancer and shit. I'm like, yo, that's not right. You messing with people. Like
you fucking with their emotions.
Well,
I feel like you shouldn't do that.
This is how I view it, and to piggyback what you're saying as far as an MC. The MC got to have bars because of the competition. There's other MCs out there. They need you to listen to them so that you don't fuck with this other guy. I need you to buy my records, this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
So pastor,
part of my flock.
Right. I need you to support me and my whatever I'm trying to get done. So I believe pastors go into it the same way as far as I have to sell this story better than these other pastors because it's a church right down the street. It's a church right over here. They can easily take their tithes and offerings somewhere else.
That's when tithes and offerings aren't going to, in my opinion, I know people feel differently, whatever, that's fine, but my personal opinion, as a pastor, I know back in the day that, you know, people that let in the Bible, pastors, where that was their job.
Yeah.
This is a new day and age, okay? I personally don't think tithe and offerings should go to pastors. I feel like you need to have your own hustle, your own grind. For example, I think one of the only pastors I know that does that is John Gray. Like, he's over his church, but he doesn't get money from that church. He writes books, and he's like a motivational speaker, and that's how he makes his money. He doesn't make money from the church.
Okay.
And I feel like that needs to be a distinction.
Well, I mean, you know, I can understand that. I just think that churches need to be more transparent with what they do with the funds. Sometimes people just give their money and just trust in the church to do the right thing, and that might not be the case.
You know the ongoing joke, been donating to the building fund all your life,
Right.
ain't even got a new doorknob on the church.
Exactly.
So
They definitely need to be more transparent. But like I was saying about pastors, I feel like that's why church has kind of become more business-like.
Mm-hmm.
Is because pastors can tell when they start losing, you know, people who coming in. Not saying they look at them like customers, but at the same time, it's like, I got to sell these Bible verses. I got to sell the story. I got to get these people entertained. I got to entertain them because, like I said, there's 30 other churches they can go to, and they can just as easily take their money there. And it's the same way with pastors who are on TV. They have to entertain or present a story in a way to get the viewer to want to support them in their cause, because it's other pastors on TV just
Bro,
as
that
well.
story got a slap.
They got to slap, because I can take my tithes and offerings. I don't have to give it to TD Jakes. I give it to Joel Osteen or Creflo Dollar.
What's the difference between me just going up there and just reading from the Bible what it is and then giving you my interpretation? Motherfuckers might not want to hear what I'm saying. But if I can say it in a way where it grabs you, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah. Oh, okay, I like the way he said that. That's a whole different thing. And I'm not saying that pastors are trying to be crooks about it.
No, I'm not.
I'm saying that they have to be able to present it in a way where you
because it's competition. It is what it is.
Pastors are black pastors in general are charismatic as fuck.
First of all, you gotta be. If you go,
you have to be.
If I go, I ain't even gonna say you. If I go to a black church and the black pastor is born, boy, I'm in that bit. Like,
I'm out.
But that goes to why I've never seen in my lifetime. I'm not saying it don't happen. In my lifetime, I've never seen black people go to a white church because the way they do things are totally different. I'm not saying this doesn't happen. I'm just saying in my lifetime, in my experience.
How about this? I've been to, I wouldn't necessarily call it a white church, but it was more of a mixed church. VCC.
Oh.
I've been to that. And that was a different vibe there. Cause, you know, you had everybody there. So, I mean, it was just a whole different vibe.
A lot of your newer churches, like, even if they have, like, white lead pastors, like, the praise and worship is a little more
elevation and all
modern. Yeah, like, stuff like that.
They got a lot of them churches.
But, like, a lot of my
really
family, when my mom was married to my stepdad, they joined a church that was predominantly white. And I was bored during praise and worship. But I learned a lot. And so I think that's why I have
Do people want to learn? I don't know if people want to learn. I think they want to be entertained.
Well, it was a lot. I mean, they had 3 services every Sunday, so people was in there.
No, I'm talking about black
people.
I think a lot of us do want to be entertained. Like the older ones.
Like,
the younger
that's
ones
the expectation. I'm about to say, I think it's starting to change now with the generations. Like the church that I joined myself when I lived in Macon, Georgia. I mean, he the bros, like he a Q or whatever. He went to a school. He was from the area locally, so he's like naturally comical. Mm-hmm. But the reason why I enjoyed coming to his services was he was very straightforward. He was very analytical about how he dissected what was said. Yeah. And it wasn't I'm gonna say this because I think it sounds good and feel good. Like what he said, I could read it and I'm like, oh, that makes sense, and that's it.
Well, I think a lot of things that turn people off about church, the younger generation and so on, is the judgmental part, where they say you got to dress up and all this shit to come to church. Not saying you got to be a bum, but the pretense is if you don't dress up, you won't get blessings or whatever. That's what they try to make it seem like. Mm-hmm. Or if you're in the house of God and you don't have a suit and tie on, or you ain't dressed or look a certain way, then you don't need to be here. And I just feel like that's wrong. And I also feel like a church should be 24/7. God ain't no 9 to 5. He don't take that. If he's a 24/7 omnipotent God, he don't work 9 to 5 and be like, he or she. Yeah. Does not work a 9 to 5 and just, take days off like, I don't want to hear no prayers on Saturday, or you ain't gonna get no blessings on Sunday. And I just feel like that's kind of how I don't know how true it is, but I hear that you can go to like a Catholic church and
Oh yeah, anytime,
and
the confess
your sins.
But the difference is priests, they don't do anything else. Like they don't have to work. They can't have a family. They take a vow of abstinence, chastity, all of that, poverty, everything. So
just like nuns, right?
I didn't mean to say it like that, but
damn, bro, you poor as fuck.
I mean, they're.
Well, I'm not even saying you got to go there and confess your sins. I'm just saying there should be a place in the church where people who want to go, and they might want to go in the church just to be in the house of God to study the word on their own, or they want to pray in the house of God and don't necessarily have to go to closed gates or these premises are closed at this time. That's all I'm saying. Yep. You don't have to be to go to talk to somebody. You can go on your own, and if you want to, study the word or pray in the house of God because you feel. Most people feel a closer connection to God when they're in the house of God. So I just feel like that should be 24 access.
Ain't that how one dude said?
That's just my opinion. I don't think it should be closed doors for church at any time. And and I also feel church should be. I'm not saying every church, but I just feel like church should be. I'm not saying they're not involved in the community.
A little bit more involved,
I think,
than what we've seen already. I think because there's times where I'm like, there's stuff going on, and I haven't seen them really kind of doing things. But then again, I'm not checking for it, so that might not.
That's why I say it could be, it could not be. And I also feel like if people are giving their tithes and offerings to a church and it has a large gathering, that money, if somebody's short on rent or they're struggling financially, I think some of that money need to be kicked back to the people who initially donated in the first place.
Yeah. They do.
I mean, some churches do that.
Some churches do, and some. I'm talking about all churches. It shouldn't be some. It should be all churches. That's how I feel.
Interpretation.
Yeah.
But they will check that attendance now. Have you been donating? Have you been here? Because if you ain't been donating, you ain't been here.
I've seen some churches do that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like they like how much you donate? Like they really sometimes press people for that money.
I mean, it sounds bad, but the reality of the situation is money is a limited resource. They have to pay bills in the church. They usually have to pay for everything else. And so the money that goes to whoever it needs to go to, I mean, everybody need a bill paid.
Yeah, but at the same time, I've seen mega churches.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
That's why I said a church with a large gathering. I ain't talking about small churches.
Yeah, because
small churches with large gathering.
We got you on the light bill this month, but next month.
Yeah, because I've seen small churches be more like humble about it.
Yeah,
like, you can't give me things, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I've never.
Whereas a big church, because I've been to big churches, you'd be like, make sure you putting your offerings and all that stuff. I'm like, I've got. No
I do want to say before we are not knocking the religion of Christianity. No, I just want people to know. No, because people might be tuning into this live just now, so I just want to let it be known, like, we are not knocking it. We're not knocking people who have that belief in Christianity or anything like that. We're just saying, there are certain things that we question about it. Not about Christianity, but just about certain practices and how certain people go about doing things.
Now, if you have a problem with questions, then yes.
Yeah, then but this is one thing, and I figure we don't probably beat a dead horse or beat a sinner to death with this shit. But we talked about something last week, and I feel like we should have had your input on it.
We missed you, Q.
So
Josh's sock says pro feet. That's cool.
I'm done. Oh, mine says that too.
These don't work socks.
Yeah, that's what it
I didn't mean to do
them
that.
shit's comfortable?
Yeah.
I'm about to get me some
more me.
Right now. Oh, you got the Under Armour shirt?
Yep.
Oh, that shit comfortable.
It's a work shirt too.
Speaking of that, I'm gonna talk to y'all about something later. You and both of y'all about something later about what we do. So last week we talked about Dwayne Wade's son. Mm-hmm. And him, I guess, coming. Would you call that coming out as gay?
I would call it that.
I didn't even know that was the case until I saw the caption.
So him as 11-year-old, coming saying he's gay, this and that, and us, because it was nothing but men here. So we were all saying like, we don't feel like at that age you know exactly what you want, and I was told that you can't think that way, or you shouldn't feel that way. Oh, like, some people know what they want at the age. Me personally, I feel like at that age, when you are a young male, you truly do not know what you want. You don't know anything. Honestly, what you really should be doing, you should be focused on playing Pokemon or whatever the fuck it is you're doing, because, I mean, that's just what it was. But I'm like, let's take into consideration, this is a young man who grew up in a famous family, You know what I'm saying? You know, he's been exposed to different things in life. So I just wanted to make sure, how would you feel about that situation? Do you feel like he's, you know, I'm not going to say right or wrong, but do you feel like, okay, that makes sense for him to feel that way? Because for us, we looked at it like, I don't see how you can feel like, you know, you're gay when you don't even know anything really about sexuality yet.
So the assumption is that, well, the assumption that I would make is that he doesn't know anything about sexuality. That's number one. I would make that assumption.
First thing we said was like, was he, you know, possibly involved with sex?
Well, you don't have to be involved with sex to be aware of sexuality. That simply has to, if you're aware of sexuality, that could have everything just to do with, hopefully, your parents exposing you to it in a very positive, healthy environment.
Yeah,
that's number one. Hopefully. I do not think 11 years old is too young. Couple reasons. I mean, I know elementary school students who say, "Oh, that's my girlfriend," or "That's my boyfriend." You might not know what to do with them, but you know you're attracted to them. You know you find them cute. You know you don't find your homeboy cute, or you might. Who knows? So you may not be able to explain what you feel, but it doesn't change the fact that you feel those things. Like I remember being in 3rd grade and little boys wanting to touch on little girls' booty. I mean, I don't know if they were taught to touch on booties at 8 or 9 years old, but that's what it came naturally to them. That's what they wanted to do. So I don't think that it's far-fetched to think that at 11 years old, this could come naturally to him. And this is someone who's speaking from a point of, I lost my virginity at 12. So I was just a year older than him.
Yeah, I lost mine at 13. But I wasn't thinking about sex at that age. I truly was just like, oh, Dragon Ball Z coming on today?
Well, and that's the thing. So you at 12 or 13 versus me at 12 or 13 or him at those are different. Like kids are becoming far more sexual or sexually aware at earlier ages.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah, like so I just don't think that it's far-fetched for at 11 for him to say, "Oh yeah, well, I think yeah."
Well, I don't think we were saying it was far-fetched because in this time anything can happen. What we were saying is we just felt like it wasn't appropriate at that age to make that an issue of your sexuality.
To make it an issue? What do you
Right. He came out, he put it on the internet that the boy was gay at a gay pride parade. Like, so that makes it an issue, a main issue.
Why does it make it an issue?
Because he's highlighting his sexuality. Okay. When I was a kid, even if I liked girls, it wasn't something where I was like, hey, I like girls, I'm straight, this, that, and the third. Okay, I like girls, I like comic books, I like sports, things like that. Like, I didn't highlight how I felt about girls. It wasn't an issue.
So here's the thing. You didn't have to highlight it because you live in a world where being heterosexual is the norm.
Okay.
So for him, it's more common now than it was when you were younger, but especially in the Black community, it's still not the norm. Like it's still a whole issue for coming out, especially as a Black male. Because there wasn't a whole lot of conversation when, what's the young girl name? Willow said she had a girlfriend at 12. Wasn't a whole lot of issue with that. And she was holding.
I didn't.
See?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Exactly. She was holding hands with the girl. She was walking. You see what I'm saying? So it didn't make headlines like that. So that's another thing for me. Like, why is it such a big deal for this young man to be at a gay parade party at 11? Willow was 12 and holding hands, and I mean,
that don't mean it was right. I don't mean I would feel right about it either.
I'm just saying it wasn't an issue then in general. In the public eye, it wasn't an issue.
I don't know. Maybe a lot of it has to do with the fact of what's going on with his father.
What's going on?
He's retiring. Like, Wayne Wade is retiring. So I don't know if that's something. I don't know. Like, I don't know how the media works. Because I feel like if he feels like he's gay, whatever. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, why is that something that, like you just said, why is that highlighted right now? That's
what I'm saying. But that was my point. Like, it doesn't matter if I don't need to tell you that, is what I'm saying. Like, why does he feel like he needs to tell people that he's homosexual at 11? Like, why is there something that needs to be addressed for the world?
I think, like, me...
So wait, did he make an announcement, or was this...
He put it on the internet with Gabrielle Union at a gay pride parade. So he's coming out as gay, and his dad sent a supporting message, which, you know, as a father, you're going to support your children.
Right, hopefully.
But that's what I'm saying.
Some of them won't.
Some of them don't, exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. So he's I don't want to say self because he's 11, but he basically made a self decision to come out as gay,
Generalization.
and making it an issue from himself, a decision he made to make that
Wait,
issue.
so why is it? That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand why it's an issue for him to say that publicly. I don't find that to be an issue.
See,
if I was 11 and I said that I liked a little boy, the only reason it would be an issue is because my daddy would feel some type of way and probably beat my ass.
Here's what.
Like-
Here, let me say my perspective in a way. So, listen, if I have a child and it's a son or a daughter, and they came out gay, I wouldn't care. That's just me. You know what I'm saying? I personally don't care what
I wouldn't care either.
want to do. But the thing is, as an 11-year-old, right? If you were saying that, hey, I'm 11 and I want to be gay, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay,
well,
why?
Did he say I want to be or did he say I am?
No, he said he was.
Okay.
But my only question would be why? You know what I'm saying?
So that's that question in and of itself is why especially black homosexual males have such an issue coming out in general. Because if they were straight and they said I like girls at 11, nobody would say, well, why do you like girls?
But here's
I feel like in some households they would.
Yeah, because like here's the thing. Like I would also question. So okay, so let's say they say, hey, Dad, you know I really like girls. I'm like, why? You know what I'm saying? Like why at this age are you worried about that kind of thing right now? Like, I want you to go to school, worry about school, go to school.
Well,
High school happens.
I had a boyfriend since I was 6, so I've been worried about boys. So
yeah.
I don't find that weird.
But I feel like more your perspective though would be coming from like a woman's perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like as boys, we grew up as boys. You know, obviously, you know, guys are raised a certain way. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, like, especially if it was my son, I'd be like, at age 11. I'd be kind of questioning, what are you thinking about?
I mean, by 11, most males have already played with themselves.
Some.
By 11.
I didn't.
No, most.
I'm gonna keep it funky.
Scientifically speaking,
And I'm gonna keep it real
most
funky.
males have already played with themselves.
I did not start jacking my dick until about 15, 16.
Okay, that's not the norm.
But then I was having sex at 13. And then when I had sex, I didn't initiate it. Like, it was initiated, like, she came on to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I feel like this. We're not saying whatever he's feeling is wrong. We're just feeling like we should at least have the right to be like, okay, why? Because as men, like if I have a son and my son was like, okay, I got a nephew. If my nephew, Messias, was to say, hey, Uncle Sean, I'm gay, I should be able to say, why? Like, okay, what made you come to this realization?
My thing
like,
is,
what happened? Like, let me know what's going on, because I'm going to support it no matter what. It is what it is. But I just want to know, like, help me understand you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not scared. I'm not afraid. I'm not bashing. I just want to understand you.
Like, I feel
so
like
I can, let's get to a point of it.
I'm more so like, okay, at age 11, I don't think you're even ready to confirm your sexuality. You know what I'm saying?
That, I disagree.
Like, maybe, let's say you
So
like,
at age 11, let's take you back to 11. At age 11, right? I'm sure that you saw little girls that you thought, you know, I can push her down. I think that's what little boys are taught, right? Like y'all supposed to like torture little girls and shit.
I wasn't taught
Dumb
that.
shit.
what? Yeah,
I wasn't taught that.
Yo,
But
listen,
anywho.
girls torture me. So.
Y'all was the one. Y'all was out here beating us up.
Like the little boys that I knew, even at 8 or 9, like I said, they were trying to look up under skirts, run and touch little girls' booty. All
But
those,
you know what? A lot
those
of us
kinds
are
of
just
little
curious.
things.
At that age, we're curious about stuff, right?
But they weren't running around trying to feel in little boys' booties. You know what I'm saying? So what my point is. This is my only point. I don't think 11 years old is an inappropriate time for someone to know how they feel when they look at someone of the opposite or the same sex. Okay. Because by that time you can have an orgasm.
Yeah.
So you can be sexually attracted to someone.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I said, I had like a best friend I grew up with in elementary school, right? Grew up with her. She used to, be giddy with boys all the time and all that kind of stuff. Then when she turned like 18, she figured she was into girls. Mm-hmm. I'm just like.
But that probably, and I don't know her, but that probably wasn't a figuring. It's more likely, in my opinion, that that's always been an inkling. But if you're not in an environment where you feel safe enough to explore those feelings, you're not going to do so.
Look at the key word that you just said, opinion.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But that's
what you asked me.
But exactly. We were giving our opinion.
Yeah.
And then when we gave it, it was just like, well, no, you can't think that way. I'm like, it's an opinion. It's not a fact. It's just what
I
we're
just
thinking.
personally feel
We're just trying to figure it out.
I feel so more like, yeah, 11 is one thing, but like give 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 a try, and then see how you feel. Kind of like, because it's like when you're going through puberty, there's a whole bunch of mix of hormones during that time period. You know what I'm saying? I was like, if you, let's say you still feel the same way after, like, like, do you feel any way towards girls? You know what I'm saying? If you don't, then maybe you are gay. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like,
I associate with a lot of people that's a part of the LGBTQ plus community, and I have never, in my time of knowing people, I have never come across one person who didn't already have those feelings prior to puberty. If that makes sense. Like, I've never come, now they may not have expressed it, they may not have felt comfortable, but later on they'll always say, well, I always felt this way, I just didn't know what it was, or I didn't know how to express it, or I didn't want to do. I've never come across anybody in that I know of that's like, oh yeah, well, I turned 18 and then all of a sudden this happened. I've never known anyone.
You know what? To be truly honest, you're right, because I have gay friends as well, and they said the same thing. But maybe I'm thinking more so on the basis of like bisexual. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are coming out bisexual now at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Gay might have been one thing, but like I feel like we classify gay under like a whole periscope. Like, oh, you're gay, you only want to mess with guys, and that's it. No, there's a lot of them out there that's like, I'll do both ways. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Cause
I think that's what it is.
He might feel that way.
Well, here's the thing: if you're gay, as far as I know, if you're gay, you're homosexual. Like, you're attracted to the same sex. If you're bisexual, that's one thing. If you're pansexual, that's another. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of these are. But whenever gay, just
here's my thing. I don't care if you homosexual or you straight. My issue is those things shouldn't be discussed at that age, because even if you saying it like it wouldn't be an issue if he came out and said he liked girls, I would have an issue in my household. If I came to my dad and like, Dad, I like girls at 11, fine, but are you having sex with them? Like, what are you trying to? Where are you taking this? You know what I'm saying?
So, but that's how you were raised, and I don't agree. I think that should be discussed as soon as the child is ready to bring it up, because when you shun them, then
but he wouldn't shun me. He would, like he was saying, he would be like, why? What is it that you're feeling? Like, why? He would want to investigate, like, what's going on? Have you experienced something? Did something happen? Like, that's just an investigation thing for parent. Like,
okay, but when you started, you said you think those things shouldn't be talked about at 11. That's what you started by saying.
No, this is my opinion, but I'm not saying my dad would be like that. This is me. Okay. My dad would be, as a parent, he's going to investigate. But me personally, I would think I'm gonna think how I think. I'm just saying, as my dad, as a parent, he's going to want to investigate. Okay, you talking about you liking girls? What are you trying to say? Are you having sex with them? Are you touching them? Okay, that's fine. But just worry about being a child first. Don't worry about, if you like girls, that's fine, whatever. But I just want to make sure you're not trying to take this a step further, because you're too young to know about things like that. And then he don't want to, of course.
Not necessarily know, but like worry about stuff like
that. Yeah, that's not something that you need to be worried about at that age. Whether I told him I like girls or whether I told him I felt like I was gay, I know that people in my family would be like, those are things that you don't need to worry about.
And that's also operating from a place where at 11, we're assuming that this 11-year-old, he's 11, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, this 11-year-old has had a typical childhood experience.
Yeah,
like,
true.
I had sex at 12, but I lived an adult life prior to being 12. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like I didn't know what was happening. I wasn't aware. Like, I was well aware of what sex was. I was well aware of all of those things because of my prior life experiences. So you have to bring that into scope as well.
So do you think that per se is a good thing or a bad thing? You're okay with that?
A good thing or a bad thing about
it? Like, I'm just saying, like, are you saying that's okay for a child to deal with that kind of situation? Like, being open to sex that early of an age?
At 11? Yeah, I think it's healthy. That's my personal opinion, though.
And I don't think it is.
Yeah, and I think that's where I wouldn't say the argument, but I think that's where some of the disconnect comes from. A lot of people, they feel like, it is healthy. Some people feel like it's not. Like me, all we can do is go off of our life experience.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying?
That's all we can do.
With me, I was exposed to women at a very young age. My grandfather had me looking at women at a young age. So I knew that I was going to like women because I just wanted to like what my grandfather liked. And then when I actually started to like women, I was like, oh, okay, this works. But if I would have ended up being gay, it wouldn't have been nothing different. My grandfather's brother was gay, so it would have been nothing for him to still accept me for who I am. Mm-hmm. But I knew I was going to like women. But at 11, I'm not going to lie, all I cared about was, yo, I got to get home so I can watch Dragon Ball Z, yo.
Yeah.
So these chicks were like, oh, you want to come out? Psst, I'm not coming out the house. I'm about to watch this Dragon Ball Z real quick. I'm about to watch this motherfucking Yu Yu Hakusho, and we about to get right. I'm about to watch Gundam Wing. Like, that's all I cared about. I was like, I didn't care about anything else.
Yeah, like,
but that's my experience growing up in the 90s, being, just a black male in New Jersey. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it was. Now, again, this is a young man who's growing up in a family who's always in the public eye, and they might have different things. They might have a different way of raising him. You know what I'm saying? Like, they might be like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Like, you can be as open as you want with us about this and that, and we're going to accept that in general. What I feel like, and this is just me feeling, we should be able to, at least us as men, be able to question, like, okay, say, why? I'm like, have you?
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that you should just go have vagina, but I'm like, you haven't even thought about having a vagina or something? Like, because I'm like, if you thought about being gay, I feel like, have you even thought about all the parameters of what's going on with this? Like, have you?
I feel
you
like,
think about. So you sure you just want to get dicks? Like, you sure about that?
I feel like when we question it,
niggas gonna pound you out.
So that's my thing though. His reason for asking why versus your reason for asking why, like those are two different reasons for asking why.
I'm being stupid right now. I hope you know that.
No, but I'm saying like, those are two different reasons. If you're asking why because why are you thinking about sexuality at this age, that's one thing. Yeah. But if you're asking why because why do you want to be gay at this age, that's a different conversation.
That's a whole different conversation. Yeah. We're just asking about sexuality.
But at the same time, right? For people, especially men that are heterosexual, right, that have never dealt with that in their lives, I would want to ask that question for my own information because I'm like, I don't understand why. Maybe you can help me understand why you feel this way, so I can feel, like, okay, like my son is gay, that's fine.
So what if he says, I don't know why, it's just what I feel. Then what?
That's hard for me to.
Ain't nothing else I can do.
Because
I'm not going to shun my son. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to do that. But I'm just saying, it's like, here's the thing. Like, I can only tell him, like, if you don't understand what you're feeling, you know what I'm saying? Just, don't worry about it at this age. Because especially, like, let's say my son said at 11 that he was gay and never had sex. So I'm not saying, you know what I'm saying? Just in general. Let's say he never had sex. Never touched a girl or a guy or anything like that. He just said he was gay, right? Because he felt like he was interested in men. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's the first thing I would say is like, don't worry about it right now. Like, give it some time. Go through school, do what you got to do first, and then when it's time to worry about that kind of situation, let's say now you're in high school or something where you're actually mostly flirting with a lot of different people at that point in time. It's like, just if you still feel that kind of way, just, go along with it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I feel like I don't want to take your childhood away.
Yeah, that's
but here's it. So I feel like even if you say in your household, like, we're not going to talk about this, don't worry about this. They still go to school. They still interact with other children, they still see things on TV. So just because you say don't worry about it or don't talk about it, that's not going to stop them from thinking about it.
I'm just saying, like, if you don't understand, right, give it time to understand.
Yeah, but if I'm a child, right, and I come to my mom and I say, Mom, XYZ, ABC, whatever, and she say, well, don't worry about that, just be a child, right? For me, that would silence me from coming to talk to you about this because you think I'm not old enough to talk to you about this. Just because I don't know how to explain what I'm feeling, it doesn't change that I still feel those things. So now, where do I go?
But that's the thing,
Who do I talk to?
If you can't even explain to us how you're feeling, how are we supposed to understand it?
Well,
because there's a disconnect at the end of the day.
It is, but that doesn't mean you cut the conversation off.
No, we don't.
Period.
Okay, even if we don't. Okay, so even if we don't cut off the conversation, if you still can't explain how you feel,
and you don't know how to understand it, that's when you bring in a family therapist. That's what they're there for.
But at the end of the day, I'm an adult. You're the child, right? So I'm just saying, like, I'm an adult, right? If you're trying to explain something to me, you explain it to me. Explain it to me the best way you can.
But listen, no, if you don't know how to, that doesn't change what you're feeling. Like, if a 2-year-old is mad and they don't know how to say I'm angry, they still express that they mad.
But that's
but even at 11, you still don't have the emotional maturity. You have you've been sexually developed, but you may not have the emotional maturity or the emotional words to express what you're feeling. So that's when you go to a therapist. You don't just shut them down.
When you don't have the emotional maturity to explain how you feeling,
Mm-hmm.
do you have the emotional maturity to even know what you're
feeling? You don't need to
time?
have emotional maturity to know what make your dick hard.
My dick was getting hard looking at cars sometimes.
My point is, that's still my point. You don't need to have emotional maturity to know what makes you. I mean, niggas is 33 years old and ain't emotionally mature.
But I'm just saying,
like,
though,
what are you saying?
What I'm saying though, like at the age of 11. My dick would get hard for no apparent reason. But I ain't going to my grandparents
at the age of 11, if I came to a parent and I said this and I say, oh well, I don't know how to explain it, it's just what I feel, and you say, well, you're not old enough, don't worry about it now, that's not going to change what I feel, and I'm still going to express it to someone. So it's not to my parents. Who?
This is how we're looking at it too. We're looking at it like adults.
Well, there's an issue right there.
We're not looking at it as a kid.
You should.
But no.
That's a point of view.
But me thinking about it as a kid, because I keep bringing up when I was a kid, I didn't know shit. I didn't know anything.
When I was a kid, I knew, but I was afraid to talk to people about it.
What we were saying also, women develop and mature faster than men.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, most times.
So that's what there you go. So when it comes to us, we might not know shit. We're just trying to figure it out. And you have to, that's an X factor. I don't care how you put it, that's still an X factor in that situation, right?
So it doesn't change if he's grown.
No, it doesn't change. But it
still needs to be a conversation that needs to be had. Don't shut him down because he's
but we're not doing that. We're just saying like, hey, we don't.
Confused now, so I'm confused because didn't you just say don't worry about it?
No, what I'm saying is like don't make that your main focus.
Yeah, that's all we're saying. Like enjoy being a child.
Enjoy being a child.
So that's okay.
Does
enjoy being a child mean not talking about it?
No, we're not saying not talking about it.
So then what
we're saying is there's other things of enjoying your adolescence, of being a child, than you worried about your sexuality right now. That's what we're saying.
Okay.
We're not shutting you down from how you feel, but we're just saying don't make that a main focus and an issue. It's things that we can talk about. We might not understand, and maybe we can see it, but everybody can't afford a therapist. So
you can go to the school counselor. It's the same thing, and it's free.
I
It's right there in school.
I don't know.
All schools have a counselor.
I mean, you might have a counselor and everybody say, you don't need
to be gay. So now
I'm just saying, though, you might have a counselor.
Yeah, that's a possibility, but is my point.
I mean, it might be a counselor and like, yo, so you don't like this girl pussy, son? You be like, yo, this counselor is wild. Because the counselors I went to school with, they were wild. Like, I'm just going to keep it funny. Usually they were a coach. Like, they were like a football coach or some shit like, so you're not looking at titties? You like,
I'm not saying to shut down what the child's saying. Like,
we're not trying to silence him.
He says
absolutely not trying to silence him.
Fine, you know what I'm saying? But like, also, like, just take time, think about what you're, saying. Like, if that's really what you want to do, then that's fine. But at the same time, don't make that your main focus. Like, if you want to still become a firefighter or something like that, that's cool too. You know what I'm saying? Like
but who says that they don't? That they're not though? Like who said that's all that he's
I feel like you think
on?
we're trying to attack them.
No, I don't think that. But what I am saying is, from a child's point of view, if they come to you and they say something like that, especially something that big, like that, whenever he came and told his dad or his mom or whoever this was the case, if their first reaction was, well, don't worry about that, you need to be worried about school, you need to be worried about this, you need to be worried about that, you may not mean it in a way of trying to silence them, but as a child, what you're most likely going to get from that is, okay, well, I don't need to be talking to them about this.
That's how you felt. Now, another child might not feel that way. Again, we're trying to argue our feelings in this situation instead of just looking at it for what it is.
But child psychology would most likely agree. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe not.
Because every household is different. Every parent knows their child.
But psychology applies to people in general.
At the end of the day, we don't have the answers.
No, but I don't think child psychology has all the answers.
Giving our opinion.
That's why I said in general.
But you saying like our first reaction would be don't talk about it as your child, and that's not what we saying. We said our first reaction would be why do you feel like this?
That is how the child would take it. This is what he said.
Okay,
is that not what he said?
Whatever.
Was I not sitting?
But I'm saying like our first reaction, me and Sean, what we said was I thought I said it too. My bad if he didn't. was we want to find out why you feel like this before we even be like, don't worry about that as a child. We want to know the background of why you feel like this is something that you need to make an issue in your life right now.
Because I would feel that way again, like when I was into chicks.
But that's not
they would say the same
why is it
thing
an
to
issue
me.
just to say it? Like that's what I don't understand.
It's not an issue.
So
He just said make it an issue.
We're saying issue because that's the word at hand.
Yeah,
that's the word that's on the tip of the
It's not
tongue.
an issue like you're going to get in trouble.
Okay,
that's
so when I hear issue, that's what I hear.
No, I'm not saying no. Well, no, that's not what we're saying.
We're sorry that we didn't give you the right word for that.
Why are you making this a subject? We'll say subject.
Okay, cool.
So because issue makes it seem like we're
Like
attacking
it's a
them.
problem.
No, it's not a problem.
It's not a problem.
Why are you making this a subject in your life right now? That's what we want to figure out the background to. Why is this a subject in your life that you feel like you need to express at this time in your life? And that, as a parent, I feel like parents would want to know why their child feels this is a major life, like a life decision in this child's life. As a parent, you're naturally going to want to know why my child feels like this. Before you even go to anything else, your first instinct is to have the background of why this is a subject in your life at this particular time. Why do you feel like that? That's how I'm coming at it. I'm not saying I'm going to shut them down or not want to talk about it, even if they can't express it. My first reaction would be, why do you feel like this? And it's not a why of this is wrong. I just want to understand. This is my way of trying to get a better understanding of why you feel like this, of how you got to this point. So my question of why is more of me trying to understand things that I might not understand that you may or may not be able to express to me at the time.
Yeah, because we can always be like I was when we grew up. Nigga, that's gay, and if I see you coming home gay, I'm gonna fuck you up. Because that's literally the other option, right?
Yeah, because that's how.
And that's how that's literally how a lot of these parents do.
So if I'm I'm
trying to find out, like, hey, what's going on? Talk to me, because I want to know. Because luckily I never had a situation like that. But when I was into women, I was like, oh, yo, she's pretty. Grandparents were looking like, okay, why are you worrying about that right now? Like, what's going on? Like, yo, why do you find her pretty? What is going on?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What are you thinking about when you see her? How do you feel? And then once they figure out everything, oh, they ain't no little puppy love. Ain't nobody worried about that. So then now they found out all the facts and they figured out, okay, well, it was what it was. Now, if it would have been the same way it would have do, they literally would have did the same thing. Like, hey, why do you feel this way about this guy? Why do you just, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on? What made you feel this way? What made you want to get to this situation? That's why I'm like, yo, every parent is different. I'm glad that my grandparents was open enough to say things like that. And I think it's just because of their experiences. Again, my grandfather had a gay brother. So it's not like he didn't deal with this shit. You know what I'm saying? My uncle, that's just what it was. He was like, okay, cool. I love my brother. No matter what is going on, I love my brother. But these are questions that they wanted to ask. Like, okay, what made you want to, what?
Yeah, because
why?
it's new.
Like, let me know why. What happened?
A lot of us
don't know.
That, I really think. Like, it's brand new to me. Like, especially if, like, my son or something, like, said that he wanted to be gay. It's like, okay, make me understand. Like, I want to understand.
I wouldn't say make me understand.
Help
me understand because you might not understand. Yeah. And it might be something that years on, you might, because 30 years down the road, you might never understand it. But you have to still respect it and you still have to love that person no matter what. Because that's another thing, too. We don't have to understand it. At the end of the day, we don't have to understand it.
But I'm going to attempt to understand it as a parent. This is my attempt to understand. Because I agree with your stance of if you come straight at them like, don't worry about this, stay in the child's place, that could backfire on you. Yeah, because they're not expressing how they feel. You're just shutting them down immediately. And like you said, they'll go somewhere else to get the information or whatever.
I feel like even worse.
I feel like me as a parent, or I would hope my child would understand that me asking why is not to shun you, it's to understand you. So I would hope that, if I have kids one day and they come to me with a major life decision that I feel like needs to be discussed, my first instinct is to want to know the background of your decision. What led you to get to this point in your life? And that's my attempt to understand you, because maybe I've been through it, or maybe I can shed some light on some things that you may or may not have thought about or experienced. And if it's something that neither one of us can explain or come to I can't explain things to you and you don't know how to explain how you feel, then we can take it to the next step as far as a therapist, or maybe it's somebody else in our family, or maybe I know a friend who's been through that, who that person, my child, can talk to. But I'm not going to just immediately be like, stay in a child's place, or you don't need to worry about those things. My first instinct is to understand the why you got to this point in your life, why you need to feel like this is a major life decision. That's how I'm looking at it. And I don't want you to think like we was trying to shun the kid and nothing like. shut them down.
Because at the same time, I feel like I'm trying to understand what, like, if that situation does come around, I'm trying to understand, like, okay, what should I do? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, how can I help?
Like, how can I basically...
Alright, you wild Jamaican, though. Y'all motherfuckers.
Listen, I ain't...
Y'all don't do no body boy shit.
Like you said, now you can see where I'm coming from.
I mean, I know that.
And that's
well.
another thing, too.
That's
Like,
how my parents
culturally,
were.
some people might deal with things different.
So, like...
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
Like, my parents are like, they hate that kind of stuff. So, it's like, me, I'm okay. Like, I have gay friends I hang around. We fight all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Wait, I wouldn't say
shut up. I fought him before.
That's like you out here. Wait a second.
Not like that.
You out here beating up gay people, son? That's
No,
not cool,
like that.
son.
But like we're friends. You know what I'm saying?
man,
Like
I
we're
don't-
that
You
close.
were here, Jesse, wasn't it?
Shut up. But no, it's like
Justice Smollett.
it's like we're that close. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're that close. So I'm just like I'm not. Listen, he doesn't come on to me like at all, and I'm fine with that. No, I have no issues with him. You know what I'm saying? If he tried, I would still tell him like, yo, that's not. I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. Like, I would still talk to him like as he was a person. You know what I'm saying? I'm not treating him like he's like lesser than me or anything like that. I'm just trying to like. I don't understand what he's thinking. I don't understand how he feels because I can only come from the perspective of a heterosexual. I don't know what it feels like to be gay. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. I think
So-
you literally hit it on the head. We don't know what it feels like. So with us, we're just asking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of us just asking.
I'm gonna tell you something. Like, real quick, me and Sean had a situation where we hung out a long time ago, and we was with some coworkers, and one of the guys was African, and he got into. I think we told this story before. I'm just summarizing.
I know what you're talking about.
And he got into it with one of our other coworkers and his girlfriend, and the girlfriend basically alluded to the African being gay with his another guy who was out there with him.
Mm-hmm.
That African was ready to beat her ass and his ass. Because in
Yeah.
their culture, that shit is taboo.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to go into account of, like he was saying, in different cultures, I mean, maybe that could backfire on the child, or maybe they could feel like they're too scared to talk about to their parents about it because their culture doesn't allow that at all. You know what I'm saying? Homosexuality at all. So it depends on what household you're in, what culture you're raised in, where things like that.
There's just a lot of intangibles when it comes to something like that. But I know me speaking, Sean Ratchford, me, Sean
Ratchetford?
Don't y'all ever I will change that shit in a heartbeat. Me personally, like I said, whenever I pose these questions, they're questions because I don't know. And I'm trying to learn and I'm trying to figure it out. And it's an opinion. It's not a fact. It's not even a absolute on how I feel. It's just, all right, I want to know why. Like, why? Because, in my stupid brain, and, this is just me being a man, being stupid, somewhat stupid at times and funny. I'm like, have you ever tried vagina?
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking awesome.
Pussy at that
Now,
like Cat Williams.
and I'm like this, and that's just me being silly, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I don't know that little boy's journey. I really don't. I don't know what's going on with him. And him and his father might have talked, him and Dwayne Wade probably talked about that. And they got an understanding. That's something they might just know of. The father, the mother of that child, and Gabrielle Union. So they all might have an understanding. All of us are definitely outsiders looking in because we truly don't know all of the situation, right? Mm-hmm. I would like to think when I have a son or a daughter, if my son was to come tell me at the age of 11, 10 or whatever it is, like, Dad, I feel like I'm gay. I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. If my son was to come to me and say, yo, I feel like, I want to have sex with girls. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. Whatever's going on, we should have a conversation. No matter what.
More so the situation is that if your son or daughter comes out as gay, it's like, shit, I thought I knew I could help you through life. Now it's like, you just threw that hammer. It was like, oh shit, I don't know what to say about this. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know where to go. I got to start from scratch. Like,
I don't know about that.
I'm just saying. I'm saying like, it's like, no. Listen, I'm saying it's like, shit. Like, I've never been. I'm not gay. I don't know what to say about that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I've never experienced that kind of thing. You basically was like, oh damn, I gotta learn something new. You know what I'm saying? It's I'm just saying, it's like I feel like most men.
No. Let's keep it fun. Most black men for the most part. And I don't want to make a generalization, but most black men, the first thing we all be like, they ain't trying to have no gay son.
Of course.
Like, because I saw a meme one time. It was like, would you rather have a thug son or a gay son? And I saw a nigga say, I'd rather have a lot of dudes like, I'd rather have a thug son. I'd rather have a son in the streets instead of getting kids and sheets. I was like, yo, what the fuck? But I'm saying most men, a lot of men, and this is that uber toxic masculinity.
Well,
that's how they
what
feel.
They say, because a lot of them still like getting poked in the booty.
Exactly. A lot of them thug niggas like getting
by
poked
men.
in the butt.
Let me be
Exactly.
specific.
But I feel like, if my son came up to me and was like, "Hey, Dad, I like girls. What do I do?" I would have way more experience than that.
You would.
If my son came up and said, "Hey, Dad, I'm gay,"
there's gonna be
there's
always a possibility for a situation when raising a child where you come across something where that child comes across something that you're not necessarily an expert on, so to speak. Like that's, I mean, it's being a parent. You deal with it as it comes.
So yeah, that's why I would agree with him. It's like I'm more so like questioning. You know what I'm saying? It's like why, you know.
None of us have like even on the last episode. I don't think any of us really had a problem with it. For the most part, like I didn't have a problem. I
just had a problem with the timing. That's my main issue, and my issue was the timing and the fact that they had to broadcast it, and I just didn't feel like an 11-year-old should come out at that time at a gay pride parade with other male adults who were in their lifestyle already.
Especially
that was just what I had a problem with. Now, I mean, that was just my opinion personally. I just didn't feel like the timing and the place was wrong for that. And the broadcast of it for everybody to see, I just think that some things, I know this is a social media era, but I think some things, especially with children, should be kept in-house. And it shouldn't be for everybody to hear.
Yeah, like, especially social media. Like, kids and social media and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's very dangerous out there, especially with social media. Like, him saying that he could get a whole bunch of flack for that by straight people that, why is he gay and stuff. That's something I would think.
He'll also get flack from straight people that he meet.
Yeah, I know that.
His dad might get flack too.
At the same time,
he'll also be, and this could be a discussion that he had with his parents, because I'm pretty sure they had a discussion about announcing this prior to.
I hope so. We're assuming. Hopefully he did.
Yes, and so it could have been a discussion of, well, how do you want to handle this? You know what? Yeah, I want to be vocal about it because there may be other kids my age that's feeling this way too, and they don't know what to do or how to say it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm just saying for like 11-year-old and cyberbullying and all that kind of stuff. It's like I don't
honestly, and that's kind of
stuff.
Also, you know what I'm saying? I was kind of thinking about it like that too. I'm like, yo,
like, I don't want people to be like. For a famous child, it's even worse. I think for like a regular like child,
it's pretty bad all around.
I feel like
it's bad.
Regular children are hanging themselves, so
it's bad all around. Yeah. I just feel like this. I don't think any. Man, I'm gonna sound so fucked up when I say this, but y'all gonna have to wrong with me on this one, okay? So,
Famous Podcast is not to condone whatever he.
Damn, it doesn't feel so good when it's said to me. Damn. I'm just saying, like, I don't think any of us will ever like the fact that our sons are for men, our sons come up like, "Hey, Dad, I like sucking dick." You like, wait, what? Bruh, some of these kids is wild too. Like, you hear something.
Is it just your son or children in general that you don't want sucking dick?
Well, if your daughter come up,
I don't want my daughter sucking dick either.
Like, Daddy, I deep throat the fuck out of dick.
I'm uppercutting the fuck out of my daughter.
Now you uppercut the fuck out of that nigga whenever she was.
No, number one, I'm like, how old are you? You 11? Why you deep throating dicks?
Nigga like, nigga, you 11? Nigga, you look 30.
And then I'm like, whose dick you was deep throating? There you go. See, now I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what are you doing? Like, whose dick you deep throating? What are you talking about? I would deep throat some dicks. You 11. The fuck you doing? Come here. Let me talk to you. Chop. Karate chop. I love you. Get back up. Now, explain to me what's going on with you. Because this isn't normal for, 11-year-old to be out here deep throating dicks. Like, what's up? And if it's my son, I'm like,
I wasn't deep throating until I was like 20.
Yeah, girl was 20?
Yeah, I'm sure. My first didn't get any head whatsoever. I was like, no.
You were scared of it?
I wasn't scared. I just didn't do it.
And that's what I feel like. Did you tell your parents?
My mom overheard me talking when I was 16. But the reason I didn't talk to her, she still assumes that I was 16 when I lost it. She doesn't know I was so. She didn't even know the words. However,
she still don't know to this day?
No, she doesn't. And
I can't hear the podcast. She was on.
And that's fine. Let me tell you something. I'm grown as hell, so I don't give a damn. But at the time, I didn't share it with her because my mom was the type of parent that would overreact. all the time.
And there you go. Like I said, everything we keep putting up, they're X factors. They're all intangibles that we don't. They're known unknowns. We know it can happen. We don't know if it can happen. You know what I'm saying?
That was 6 Mafia album, by the way.
Exactly. But I'm just saying, like, and again, we're not. None of us are wrong here. None of us are wrong. None of us are. I wouldn't even say right. Just
nobody's right or wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it was wrong, but that's just my opinion. But in all actuality, they wasn't wrong in what they did. If the child wanted to be at the parade and broadcast his sexuality at that age,
who are we to tell them how to
tell them they're right or wrong? You know what I'm saying? So they're not wrong in what they did. I'm just saying, you know, personally, each one of us would handle the situation
a little bit differently,
and that's all it is to it, really.
I just look at it like, you know, like you didn't tell your mother that you were having sex at the age of 12, right? I didn't tell my grandfather or my grandparents that I was having sex. He knew though, because he wasn't stupid. Because you come home, in males, there's a change from when you ain't getting no pussy.
Oh, I know
to when you getting pussy, because you act a certain type of way. So he knew after a while, because I remember even for my prom, he was like, you know this, I drove his car to prom. He was like, you know the seat leans all the way back, right? And my grandmother was like, Charles, don't be telling him that. And he's looking at her like, shut the fuck, like he fucking, like do you not know he is fucking right now,
Jeez, baby.
Like he's fucking, like let's stop acting like he's not, because he ain't telling you something. Cool. And now that was my biggest thing. I never wanted to tell my grandmother because I just didn't want her to look at me differently.
Yeah.
Like my friends would kind of bring it up like this, and I look at my friend like, man, shut up, man. They're like, bro, you are 20 years old. I didn't.
But you see,
that's
like,
a whole other story.
Us as human beings, we tend to raise our children how we were raised. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So it's kind of like if we weren't raised in that way, we're gonna have questions about it.
Yes.
Automatically. That's like definite. So I feel like it's okay for us to question, especially in society now, because like it makes us learn. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather learn something new.
Yes.
Than like
I don't want to be closed off.
Kind of thing.
I don't want to be.
I would rather be fully involved in what you wanting to do. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, I don't know about that.
Fully involved.
Like that. Oh my god.
Like that. Can you tell me how this
You
works?
set yourself up for that one.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie to y'all.
Come on.
Because it crossed my mind too, but you know, I didn't say it.
He like, yeah.
Oh my God.
Chill out, son. What's going on? What are you doing? What are y'all doing in this room? Doors open. Doors open when you got. Who are you?
No more lock the doors.
Exactly. Who are you?
Still
What's
no
going
sex
on
in my
over
house
here?
though.
And you know, and I will still be a regular dad. Like, hey, y'all two little dudes, don't be closing these doors in here. I know what y'all doing.
I hear corduroy, goddammit.
Shut up. See, no, that ain't right. No, fuck that. You can't make no jokes. Fuck you. You can't make no jokes. No, you can't. Fuck you.
That joke was already made.
Fuck you. No, don't use it. UNFAMOUS Podcast that support jokes about kids humping each other, okay?
Nah, kids be humping each other.
Shut up. No, we don't. I ain't never do that.
I did.
I bet you did.
I was humping the hell out of these palms, though.
Ew.
I didn't masturbate until I was 20.
What? And see, like I said, when I said
the average age for a woman to masturbate is like 19, 20.
Exactly. The average age for a dude to masturbate is really actually young.
It's young as fuck.
Yeah.
They're like
Fuck
8.
that shit.
I didn't do it.
And nothing comes out, but I didn't masturbate. Yeah,
Till your wrist.
exactly. Bro, I didn't masturbate until I
Get
was
some
like
ice pack on you.
until I was
to
like
work.
16.
Which
bro,
I
like
think
15,
that's really
16.
sad, because as a woman, I began to realize what I like way more after I started pleasing myself. Before that, I had to rely on my partners to know what I like, even when I didn't know. Like,
I ain't gonna lie, man. I remember the first time I jacked off after puberty, and the first time I came, I was like, man, this is
Awesome.
This is God. You have blessed me. I did not know I had this talent.
Bro, you did not know because this
I
shit
did
was
not
happening.
know this was. I seen it on Flicks, and I was like, "No, I'm gonna tell you. I seen it on Flicks, and you see the dudes coming and shit. They be yelling like, "Why they doing all this yelling? That shit ain't even acting and shit." Then when that shit hit you, like you going Super Saiyan.
But you be like,
fucking afro turned spiky and shit came colors.
oh my god!
y'all some damn.
White Powers 9000.
Wait,
That's when you learn learn the power of the sock. Don't need no evidence.
I ain't have a sock.
No, me neither.
No, I just had a dirty old rag. Look, I cleaned. I would wash. I would wash.
That shit get. You don't wash it in time. That shit get y'all.
All the women who grew up with only sisters, this is what it would be like.
When I say that shit was stiff as a board,
like it's pretty bitch with stars, cuz?
Bro, I threw that shit against the wall, and that shit was holding the wall hard.
Why you rag so hard?
Nah, I hit it. Look, I make sure I always watch.
That's my special rag. You ain't nobody can find this. Nah, you can't.
I'm like, nah, I was washing the car with this.
I sneezed on it.
Like,
I blew my nose.
Like, no, this the microfiber rag.
Bro, I put that shit on top of the Christmas tree so it could be like the angel ornament and shit. That's how stiff it was.
That shit was sticking up like there's something about Mary, cuz?
Exactly. They're like, what is that? Oh, what's that doing up there?
Yeah.
Throw that in the wash. I had to wash that shit like 8 times, bro.
Yo,
I
hate it when my mom try to come wash my clothes. Like,
get out here.
Don't wash my clothes.
I can wash my own clothes. Luckily for me, I wash my own clothes.
Why didn't y'all just jack off in the shower?
That's weird.
It's actually for one.
See,
I came in the technology age. You know what I'm saying? So I had little iPods and stuff to watch.
Oh, so you needed to.
So I couldn't do it in the shower because.
Man, you better
First of all, the water don't give you that good grip. You know what I'm saying? It's too sweet.
Wait, I use that.
Okay.
You can use a little lube, but that's too much water. You don't get that.
Okay.
You don't get that good. I need some torque on my shit.
It's too loose.
What is that magic shit? That hair oil?
Okay.
Oh, that's that blue. Was it?
Are you talking about blue magic? That's what the fuck you use. That shit thick as fuck, dog.
Damn, cuz. You got sulfur 8 and shit, getting anti-damage.
I mean, that shit.
That's why I showered right after.
Bro.
That's hair grease. What you
think I could use a softy gel?
You could have clogged your glands.
Bruh.
Dick grease.
That man got a fro on his dick.
That's why you gotta get a little bit.
What you mean that?
Just a
dog.
little bit.
Hey, bro, you mean that?
Just a little
You mean that goo magic, cuz?
Alright, guys, for all the small penis people out there, just use some blue magic, man.
Bruh, that nigga got, his dick hairs got waves,
Use some
bruh.
goo, bro.
That nigga put a do-rag over his dick.
It's like,
Yeah,
alright, little guy.
You're like, damn, chick like, oh, that shit wavy as fuck.
Nigga got that Billy D.
That
Williams
shit is
pubes,
very
bro.
different, bro. Nappy pubes are weird as fuck.
Motherfucker got that Lando pubes, bro. That
Lando
Calvary.
That's the first thing I went to. If I couldn't find shit. It's like, what do I use? What do I use?
Blue magic? Bruh, your boy got
Oh
here.
my
Blue magic. I stand by
Wait,
it. I guarantee it.
Huh? No.
That nigga was out here using Murray's pomade, bro.
Hey, hold up,
Come in
bro.
handy anytime.
Hold up, bro. You was like, this. I use that blue magic. I stand by that. I guarantee it. Call you American wankster, cuz?
I only ever have some.
American wankster?
Yeah. Thank you.
You gotta use what you got, what you can find. I'm telling you.
Yo.
Yeah, I know. So y'all lucky.
Yo. Hold on, bro.
It's called Blue Magic for a reason, G.
Yo. Bro, you stupid as shit. Your boy's an American wankster.
Y'all, dog.
Fuck that. You love us. What you talking about? You missed us.
I thought I did, but
Look, we don't have a Jai here.
Lord.
It would have been way worse. You do know that.
We was too serious earlier. It's time to cut up now.
And then, if Joe would have been here, you already know that was going to happen.
By the way, this is my cousin Shaq's over there.
Oh, I forgot that, bro.
He's from.
I forgot he was back there.
From England.
Oh, shit.
Oh, so they say wank all the time.
Why we ain't had cuz on the show?
What the
Hey, cousin, how old were you when you first winked?
Yo.
He just.
Oh, get over here.
Get over here.
Hold on.
Yo, wait. It's also his birthday tomorrow, so get your ass over here.
How old are you?
Should have been had cuz on the show. I forgot he was back there. I ain't even gonna lie.
Oh, man, he's 19, guys.
He's young.
He's a youngster.
He's a youngster.
Don't be scary. Ain't nothing really.
Yeah,
I mean, it can't be worse than the tattoos you have.
I know, right?
I think he just want to chill, bro. I don't know if you want to get on.
If you don't want to get on,
He don't want to get on, bro. Don't worry about it.
You don't want to get on?
He chilling.
I'll just mess with him.
Oh, shit. Damn it. I wanted to actually have somebody from across the pond on here.
Actually, do you want to come on? Are you scared?
Bro.
All right.
I mean, you can say
You
something.
gotta share it with your friends.
Come
Try
on.
to be
Come on.
international.
At least say what's up to everybody. Come on.
And say how you
Say
were
what's
when you
your
first
name.
I want
linked
to
it.
give a shout out.
That's
your
not how
fun
it's
not
fact to
Jamaican.
How do y'all
share.
say shout
There
out?
you go.
Shout out.
Shout out. Oh, I like this
Yeah,
guy.
you just said shout out.
Good God.
What's going on, man?
I'm good.
Ah, see? There.
What's your name?
Shakeem.
Shakeem.
We just call him Shucks.
So is it true? I got a couple questions.
Yeah, we got a couple.
Oh, Lord.
Just a couple.
So is it the whole tea and crumpets thing? Is that overrated?
Yes.
Is that how y'all really do in England, or is that
It's a stereotype.
okay? All right.
It's like the posh people that kind of, like the upper tier people that do all of that stuff.
It's a joke. Oh,
So skinny Drake Aubrey.
So
Because
music,
Drake and Aubrey, you know.
music scene. Who's popular?
They got that. Y'all got that grime music.
Y'all still listen to
Yeah,
SAS?
yeah.
Or they old?
Nobody fucks with SAS no
Oh,
more.
damn.
They fuck with oh, what's his name? It's gonna come to me later, but grime
I
music.
like Stormzy and stuff like that.
Okay.
'Cause I know you don't know him.
Well, I was watching Noisy one time, and they had a bunch of the grime artists on there, and I was like, oh, okay, because they had this one dude. He's been out for like a minute, but he kept going to jail. I forgot what his name was. I don't know. He just kept going to jail for like random weird shit. And I'm like, how the fuck he get a gun?
Yeah, for real.
Like, how the fuck he get a gun?
Well, I keep hearing that because they keep like taking the mick because there's just stabbings.
Yeah.
I got another question. How do y'all police get around without no gun?
They smack.
They
I
beat
mean,
the
nobody
shit out of
has
people.
guns.
What you talking about?
Nobody has
Nobody
For the
has
most part.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so.
That shit wouldn't fly in America.
Only way you can get a
Clap,
gun.
cuz.
Only way you can get a gun is
Wiley.
a certified dealer.
Is he still dope? Was it Wiley?
He's kind of old school.
Yeah, that's what I remember him. Like, I remember him, Skepta, and all those guys. Like, you know.
Yeah.
So can we get to my question now?
Oh, my bad.
How old were you when you first linked it?
Oh,
Why do you care about this man wanking?
Is that what y'all
That's what we were
Y'all call it
talking
wanking?
about.
Don't worry, Shax. I won't let
Bashing,
your mom hear this.
Or bashing?
Bashing.
Oh, shit!
That's violent as hell.
Fuck that!
I'm supposed to go bash in the bathroom?
Damn, I feel like I should name it American Boston. Damn, I wish you would have spoke earlier. Damn it! This would have been a dope episode. We would have had a bunch of random
Hey,
shit to
man,
ask.
I know he's kind of shy, so I ain't gonna like.
Oh, man, you ain't gotta
okay.
be shy around
Nah.
us, man. We're
Bro, I forgot you were back there. I ain't gonna lie.
I would occasionally make sure he was all right. I was like, oh, he's all right. He ain't say nothing. Because I was waiting to see, like, damn, these motherfuckers ain't shit. I was waiting for you to say, yo, eyes, yo, what the fuck is wrong with you, yo? I'm like,
Hey, I just introduced him. You know, I'm just making sure. You know,
Oh,
especially as his birthday today.
Happy birthday,
technically
man.
birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, bro.
So you're
Birthday
19
shout
today
out.
or you're 20 today?
I'm 19 today.
19 today.
Oh, man,
Okay.
damn.
How long are you in town?
I'm going on Sunday.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. How long have you been here?
we came here last week Thursday.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Damn.
All right.
You're supposed to go.
Bro, you
but-
better take him to the strip club.
What do y'all
Yo,
call?
did-
What do y'all call strip clubs? And
Strip clubs.
No, yeah, same.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
I mean, in Atlanta they call it the Shake, so it could have been something different.
Yeah, but they still call it strip club everywhere. They might have a slang name for it, but, you know, strip
be like
clubs.
the-
because I know some terminology is different. Like y'all say flat
International
instead of
House of
apartment.
Buns.
Flat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they say flash. Yeah.
Instead of calling cigarettes.
Instead of jack off, they say wanking off.
No, they say bashing off.
That's more of the younger guys that say that bashing and the older
Younger
guys say
than
white.
you?
So
Like my age.
Oh, okay.
So if you jerk off and then fuck a chick, it's called a bash and smash?
Yo, don't let this man right here. Do not let Josh influence you. Do not go back to the UK.
Goddamn assault and battery out
Bash and smash.
They're like, yo, they gonna
Hey,
like,
we
yo,
need a copyright.
they gonna probably like, yo, what the fuck were you doing out there?
Yo, that's supposed to be a common term.
They're like, I was around the Unfamous
Bash and
Podcast.
smash.
Like,
These guys are wild. Like, yeah.
yo, is that
Actually,
yo, Sean? Is that gonna be one of the words on the t-shirts like bashing?
Bro, bash and smash.
No, actually, it is gonna be on the t-shirt.
Oh, can we add another one?
What?
Ball, coochie, long hair, whole shit.
What?
What?
Oh,
No, I don't know.
That's
I don't think we can put that on the shirt.
you can abbreviate it.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
You know, most women be like, "Oh, I'm about to do bald head whole shit this summer," but I don't identify with that, so I have to come up with a new one.
Ball coochie?
So we got that. We got bash and
People women
smash.
get shaved all the
And
time.
we got
So your coochie's bald?
Sometimes.
wick dick.
Okay,
That's
that's
the other one, wick dick.
Wig dick and
Wig
bald
dick,
coochie?
yeah, you know.
Would you? He's like, fuck am I for?
Where did I bring it? Like,
You're like the worst cousin ever.
I know. I had to bring him on the show. Everybody.
Damn.
Sorry, Shaquille.
Fuck that, yo. Fuck that. You go back home, you tell
You
people.
tell your friends. You
Like,
share
yo,
this
don't finish
episode.
podcast.
He's been enjoying himself. I know you've been enjoying yourself ever since you came. This is your first time in America, right? I know you've been enjoying yourself.
Damn, why the fuck you ain't tell us? Dog, we could have been doing shit with him and hanging out and showing him shit. We could have showed you the trap. We could have showed you all type of shit.
He was actually, the issue is he was supposed to go,
Show you some hood rat hoes?
Nah, you don't want to show him that.
Yes, I do. You want to see some hoes, don't you?
No, not hood rat hoes.
I mean, I got a girlfriend, so I can't engage in the hood rat hoes, but we can show you the hood rat hoes.
I just got one favor, man. When you go back, you just do this verbatim.
Oh, shit, here we go.
I want you to call to a young lady, be like, "Hey, Lassie, would you like to partake in a
They don't say
They don't say Lassie, you dumbass.
Oh my gosh.
Nigga, that's Irish.
What do y'all say for?
He said, "Oh."
Hey, Lassie.
They don't say Lassie. The fuck is wrong with you? They just call them like chicks and shit.
Oh, you call them chicks?
Oh, wait,
What's
maybe
the
I
term
don't know.
for?
What do you guys call girls that you know trying to
Are
talk
you trying to talk to?
Yeah.
What if you're going up to talk to her? girl?
Yeah.
Just call her babes or something.
Oh, shit. Oh my goodness. Holy shit. That's gonna make them
Y'all ain't not
Hey,
ready.
you need to go.
Y'all
Hey,
ain't
you
in the
get
rent,
some
boy.
bread.
Bruh, you don't
accent, bruh.
You really don't understand. Over here right now, if you talk to any of these chicks, they're like, oh my goodness, you remind me of Idris Elba.
Yeah.
Bro, you gonna get so much pussy. You got a girl? Oh, you might get you might get so much pussy.
You about to
G.
mash and smash.
Exactly. Yo, all you gotta do is talk to them like, they're like, you gonna say something like, say,
Only
like,
if you want to. Don't let them pressure you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here in America, we call them thoughts.
they call them thoughts too.
Y'all call them thoughts too? Oh, okay.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, remember.
Okay, can I ask you
Look, take a hoe to Chipotle. That's food for thought.
what American
Oh,
music
shit.
do you like?
Oh shit!
Hold up, you take them to a Chipotle, that's food for thought.
That's what I just said.
Oh, I thought you said remember.
Oh my god.
I ain't hear you. But anyway,
Like,
go
this
back.
what we just. Oh,
Yeah, any American music. I'm not really fast at all.
Oh, okay. Any American music? Like, you don't discriminate at all?
Man, he fucks with it all, bro. Like they
You
actually
don't listen to any English music.
see. That's the thing though. Like the only English music I was like exposed to was like Skepta and like SAS and Dizzy Ross. No, he's not even really English, honestly. But we're not exposed to that over here.
Yeah.
Unless it's R&B. And it's like Ed Sheeran and everybody else.
Yeah,
It's
the
like,
only way it can get over here, right?
Yeah,
Specifically, is if it's in England. Usually we don't hear that on the airways. You know what I'm saying? Like we'll hear our shit first before any of that stuff is even played. But if it's like what's it called? Is it Roadman Shack, the one that made the Man's Not Hot?
Oh,
Yeah, that shit. That only stuff like that we'll hear because that shit is like all over the place.
you hear that other shit, yo?
Oh, don't say it. No, don't play this.
Bro, what you talking
You gotta
about?
play that dirty shit. Don't play that shit.
Talk about that.
It's hard for other artists to break it. Like
You heard that
non-American
shit?
artists to
You
break
heard that
it
come on
here.
there?
Like there's this
Unless they're R&B
This-
a lot.
yeah R&B, but again they sound American. Like what's my name? David that just
Yeah,
that's the
Yeah.
only soca song I've heard on American Airways ever in my entire life.
Yeah, so we gotta kind of be in those locations.
Big penis. Man's not straight. Nigga straight.
Where do y'all find the time?
Yo, if where's he finding shit? This
shot.
motherfucker.
Fuck me good, come splat. Everyday man's on the cock. Smoke dick.
He smoked it?
That man is a fucker. When the dick was squirt.
They about to kick us off all kinds of airways.
Yo, this is being played on YouTube.
This guy has no filter.
I think that's
Oh,
it.
For real. Like that's it.
It'd be like fucking GTA.
Well, look at her face. She's like,
Yo, you know when you die on GTA, you like,
oh, when we died.
a famous podcast.
Wasted.
Fatality.
My new name for this show is Pearl Dean because I don't need nobody.
Pearl
calling me
Dean?
up, Pearl
That's
Dean.
all right.
That's what they
I'll
used to
tag
do,
you.
like, what was
What's
it,
up,
Jesus
look?
and Kelly? It just
You can
became
tag
Kelly.
Pearl Dean on Facebook too.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna tag you. I'm gonna tag shit out of you. And all our ratchetness.
Like they kicked us off as just like Pearly and just like Regis and Kelly, just Kelly now.
Okay, well, while we're here, did you have any questions for us over here? Like,
Yeah.
as far as like things you like, why do y'all do that? Or why do y'all say this? Or what the fuck does this mean? Or anything like that? Because I know like it's almost the same, but it's culturally different. Oh, he's thinking.
Don't be shy. Don't
Yeah,
make
you
her
can actually
feel
think. It's
bad.
not a problem.
The
Yeah.
worse, the better.
Honestly, yes.
Do you not feel like you have to use guns out here?
So this is what happens with dudes with guns.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of these dudes are wild pussy, and they don't know how to fight.
Yeah.
So that's why they use guns.
And
Like just
The
let's keep it
access
funky.
is different. Like
Yeah.
so, like a part of when America started and when they had the revolution and all that other stuff.
Hey,
like,
wait, that might be a touchy subject.
Okay, that's fine.
No.
I'm just saying what's written in the books. A part of that
I don't
was
agree with
them
it.
being able to bear arms. So it's like being able to do that. Like a lot of people outside of gangsters like consider that an American right. Like you need to be able to bear arms and all that other stuff. So anytime
regular
any
people.
laws come across that may suppress that in some kind of way, there's always like a huge uproar.
Pushback.
Yeah.
it's always pushback.
And so now all these people with these big ass guns, you ain't trying to piss them off. So
Yeah.
I mean, it started off as good intent, and now it's just like everybody got guns.
Back in the day,
Especially
everybody
in Texas.
needed a gun because
Yes, who
we
can
had
succeed
bears. and
anytime
shit.
they want to without
Like,
permission. So.
When the Second Amendment was made, it was made because of, is it a second?
Yeah.
Bear arms? Okay, yeah. So that was made because back in those days, there was bears and shit around. So everybody needed a fucking gun. At this point in time in life now,
Like the bear arms came from shooting bears.
no, I mean, just like, no, it was just like wildlife. Like, it was like
to be able to fight against.
anything, right? Because you was able to get deputized at any given time. Like if there was some type of invasion and something was happening, you would be, you're gonna fight for your country. So it is what it is.
My thing is
Now it's like a lot of us don't truly need them. A lot of us just want them. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to like us as like black people for the most part, and I'm not trying to say this as far as like all of us are pussy because I can't say that. But if it's like a lot of like thug niggas, a lot of them dudes like they don't want to fight no more. Like a lot of dudes just don't want to fight. They're like, all right, fucking, I'm just gonna shoot motherfuckers. But then it's weird because then they be like, Black Lives Matter. So I'm like, I don't know, it's weird. Like in the same breath, you'll have somebody say Black Lives Matter and then go shoot somebody. And I'm like, bro,
Yeah. You just killed a black life.
like you kind of you didn't have a reason to do it.
It matters.
It does matter, and I'm like, our life should matter to us. So stop killing each other, please. Somebody just killed Nipsey, so yeah. Stop doing that. Black lives do matter, and his life definitely mattered. Any other questions? Come on, man. We got time. We got a little bit of time. Yeah. Yeah, he got questions.
I know he does.
Yeah.
Don't
So I brought him
hesitate.
back.
It's okay.
Where are the who's, my nigga? I don't know.
Shut up.
Josh, go outside, man. Yo, I'm gonna let you know now. He is the most uncultured out of all of us.
Really?
Wow.
Yes.
The beautiful state of West Virginia here in America.
They're known for fucking cousins.
That's a fucking lie. What we're known for.
Is that where the Tiki Torch guys were from?
No, they're
regular
from-
Virginia.
What about the
regular
West
Virginia?
Virginia?
Cuz.
What about the blue
It's
people?
West Virginia, guys. West side, guys.
What about the blue people in Virginia?
Yo, they are known for fucking whatever.
We're known for coal. We're known for having awesome people come out of there.
They're known for shit that nobody needs anymore. Don't nobody need no coal.
Everybody needs fossil fuels.
Away from fossil fuels.
Unless you trying to barbecue my nigga, shut up.
Yeah,
Yeah, fuck you. But yeah, don't worry about him. Don't pay him no attention. He'll know shit.
Josh, I don't think you're uncultured.
I am cultured.
No, he's not uncultured. He just don't be knowing shit.
I'm unfamous and I'm uncultured. And I give a unfuck.
So you never left America.
Nah, I never left America. But I have fucked some international bitches.
Oh God!
Do you see what I'm saying now? It don't take long for people to
I don't believe America. I bring America to them.
Internet is what you mean.
You understand what I'm saying? Hey, welcome to America.
Oh,
Coming
God,
to America.
But to answer your question, in
Coming
general,
in
there's not like
America.
I would venture to say, especially in the Black community, there's not a whole lot of us that venture outside of America. Partially because we don't have the means, but also like it's not really like I feel like in other countries in the world, globalization is more of a forethought. Like you understand that you're a part of the world. You know what I'm saying? So we think we are the world. Like not we, but like America. It's like us and fuck everybody else. Like it's just us. Why do we need to go anywhere? Why do we need?
You know why?
You know what I'm saying? So we don't get that push.
We got fucking New York City. We got Miami. We got everything. The fuck, we got big titty bitches and fat butts and.
I mean, that's not what I say, but yeah, something like that.
Well, she'll say we got big dick swinging niggas.
And I mean, I could go to Africa for that. I mean,
well, they got big dick swinging niggas there. I guess I don't know.
I got a question, like a serious question. How do you people in England feel about our president? Donald Trump. I feel like he's a piece of shit. Are y'all different to things that happen in
It's the
America?
same thoughts you lot would have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I heard nobody really cares for him.
I didn't know if y'all like.
No, they don't like him. You didn't see that in like England. They did not like
Well,
him.
the only thing I hear about England is the whole Brexit thing. You know.
I was just about to ask you about that because
Yeah.
last time I heard they weren't able to come up with a plan, so they're still kind of.
I'm gonna say, I don't know anything.
Thank you. So I'm with you. I'm looking. You look like man. I don't know.
My man.
Listen,
I want to talk about hoes.
My man
is that
Shaq's
what you
all
want
he
to talk
wants to do
about, host?
you want to play video games.
I mean, that's not what I was saying.
And
But
It's okay. I'm just giving a thought. He's like, look, I'm trying to get on these hoes. Where the hoes at? And he's like, I don't want to.
Where that bitch is?
He's like, I don't want to act. Like
Yo,
I'm
wait.
Too much
Hey,
hoes.
Shaq, tell him about your thought of women here versus England.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, you
that's-
share
yeah.
to the one
yeah.
woman in the room.
the women here are a lot better than the ones in the UK.
Oh, thank you.
I
Okay.
see.
See? And then y'all would think different. I know that's
No. I mean, I've actually heard that. So isn't that?
So wait, why do you say that? What do you mean?
They
Like
just look
by
nicer.
what? Oh, okay.
They look what?
But y'all got some bad joints out there, though. Y'all got some bad joints out there.
It's a
Is it?
rarity to see a nice one when you're in like the UK.
What?
When you're like even just going to like the shopping centre or whatever, just walking around, you'll just see loads of nice.
They ain't got no ass.
Let
no
me
shit.
pack my
Even the
bag
black
and go to the
chicks,
UK.
Look, man, y'all
That's
got-
where I'm gonna find my sugar daddy at.
Y'all got
In the wrong
motherfucking.
place.
Y'all got motherfucking Jasmine Webb. Like I don't know who that is.
That's one.
I don't give a fuck. She bad.
But he talking about regular people.
No, I mean I've seen
in
some.
the
No,
supermarket.
I mean
Yeah.
I've seen some bad joints. I mean, from what I might be
Celebrities.
uneducated on this one. I believe I have a big African community and a big Caribbean community, right? As far as your black people, like a lot of your black people aren't just like regular black people. They're usually Africans and Caribbeans, right?
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of beautiful, just like English women. Like I don't know. Like my biggest thing always was like, yo, a beautiful black, just dark chick with a fucking British accent. I was like, yo, that is the sexiest thing to me. Cause I'm like, oh, you sound like you bought your shit, and they probably like,
Well,
no,
you're picturing the English accent all posh and everything.
No. I don't give a
No,
fuck.
dude, I know
I'm
they
cool.
got the
Look,
rough.
I know there's different ones. I know that got the Cockney. I know all that shit like that. I'm cool with
Yeah,
it.
some of the accents are really bad.
And it's horrible. I've heard at least 4 or 5 of them. The one that I don't understand is Welsh. I don't understand it too much.
that's
It's hard to see. Look, bro, I understand some shit. Like, look, y'all gonna see that I'm fucking cultured in here, dog. I know some shit. Like, I know about different things. You motherfuckers, you.
Hey, I got a question.
Don't answer it.
Fucking guys. I got good questions, damn it.
Ask
So when you come back to America, what's your top American destination you would like to visit or go to?
Miami. Say it.
Actually, yeah, you know what? That's
Okay.
Ooh, wait up, you should have came with us.
Oh, did you not go?
Oh yeah, I used to live down there too. So yeah, it was nice.
Just
Bro,
came back.
And it's
loved it.
expensive down there though.
I mean, to live, yeah, it's definitely expensive, but to have a good time, not really. Just to go down there and visit, we didn't spend that much money. Honestly, we really kind of didn't.
Next time you come, Sharks, I'll take you. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about this motherfucker.
He gonna be asleep most
He
of the
took
time.
a
Don't
deep
worry about
breath.
him.
He was like, all right, let me get ready.
Yeah, fuck him.
Okay.
On the flight.
This-
All right.
He gonna sleep the whole time.
I'll sleep on the flight.
Yeah.
I ain't
Whatever. He gonna sleep the whole
We
time.
get to my-
This motherfucker slept the whole trip.
No, I didn't. Exaggerate this shit every time. I didn't
80% of the time.
Bro, you slept at least 3 days.
For like 20
His
minutes.
girlfriend put that thigh out on him. Drained all his manpower.
Hey, he
Sean,
met my
are you a
girlfriend.
virgin?
Why?
Oh.
You gotta get some American cheese, cuz.
I gotta get him out of here. You guys are gonna.
I was about to say, dang
Don't-
dog. That may be great.
I mean, look, I'm not mad at it. Shit, do your thing, G. But you know, if a chick come out here and be like, yo, I'm trying to crack these yeeks, you gotta be like, definitely.
Babes. You gotta have babes at the end.
Babes, I'm trying to bash and smash.
You sounded wild African for a second.
Well, whatever the fuck. No.
Is there any other questions we're gonna ask this young man?
Yeah, he like that, see? My man, he like that. He fucks with that. You take that back to England, tell him.
Yo,
Eddie Hardaway told
Good
me.
old Josh from West Virginia taught you that one.
Eddie Hardaway sent me. That's what you.
You gotta go back like, yeah, the cousin fucking West Virginia guy.
No, the guy who fucks cousins.
Oh yeah. His cousins. You forgot a word.
Other cousins, not my cousins.
Oh, they're like extended family?
Nah,
Like I heard fifth and down don't count. That's what I heard.
well, I wouldn't know. I don't
And it's
know.
30 now.
It's only one thing to get extended on me, but that's a whole different story.
Oh, you're a grower, not a shower? That's a thing!
Combo breaker.
That's a thing!
Combo breaker.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
goodness.
Y'all never heard, you never heard that
I've actually heard
I've
of
heard
term?
it.
Women use it all the
I
time.
heard
Grower versus shower. Like, shower is someone, like, when they're hard, they're the same size as flaccid, but a grower.
A lot of
you know,
chicks actually like the growers
hard.
because they're like, oh wow.
I mean, it is impressive, but I don't really care if you're a girl or a shower as long as you can put it down. I don't give a damn how you get there. Just get there.
Oh shit.
But anyway,
Oh my god.
like I said, bash and smash. Kenny Hardaway sent you. That's me, bro. So when you,
Okay.
Like, where you found that? Where you hear that from? Like, yeah.
So,
Shout us out, Infamous International, guys. We out here.
So I think that's pretty much it for this episode.
I think he's red in the face.
Damn, I wish you would have got on earlier because we were talking about way too serious.
I wish
shit.
your guy was here. You really would have
Oh,
gone.
God.
No, actually, no.
That would have been hilarious.
He'd be like, yeah, son, America's fucking awesome. Fuck every other country. That's
Yeah,
him.
Yeah, he actually would have said that.
He
Yeah.
literally would have said that. But other than that, I think that's pretty much it for this episode, man. I mean, unless anybody got anything else going on or want to talk about.
Nah, but
Kia, no?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Oh, and I apologize right now for what the child said.
I didn't even listen, so
No.
because he ignorant.
Talk about the Yammers.
Oh,
Yeah,
what you
he's
talking about last
like,
time?
I made a comment. Everybody else is scared.
yeah.
I'm like, it wasn't that we're scared. That's not for us to talk about. Like, we ain't gonna talk about the Yammers. Not on air. We're not gonna talk about your Yammers on air. We got enough respect for you not to do that. Okay.
Everybody but a Jai. It's
Yeah.
okay though.
Oh no, he does not care.
Kick him in the kneecaps.
I mean, that's why he has. And his movie's gonna come out. It's called Horror Island.
Oh
No.
yeah, I heard about that.
Horror Island. This was your boy Sean, Mr. NJ Brick City.
Cocoa Butter Brothers and Aloe Vera Niggas as well. Shout out for that.
Unreal fiction. Are we ending this show?
Yeah, we are.
Kirby.
Ken Slimmons. Kenny Hardaway.
What?
no,
There you go.
I'm good.
Fuck this young man mind up.
What y'all doing?
That's a job.
Yeah, I can't bring him.
eyes.
I can't bring him back home because
Yes, you can.
his mom's gonna be asking too many questions. Like, what you do with that, Shax? Can I watch the show?
No,
Like, no.
no. Do not let me watch
Don't let her watch it. She might share it with some friends.
No.
No. Don't let your mom watch it, but you share it with your friends.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, because she's gonna probably like those damn Americans.
yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, we don't need that. But yo, this is the Unfamous Podcast. We'll holler at you later. All right.
Bye.
Peace. Oh man, we did a good hour and some 2 hours and some change.